Nowadays, many modern road courses are built as a best-of medley, often paying homage to famous corners. However, long before that trend was started, Pocono was built. Literally made to match each corner to 3 different famous ovals of its time, it is still considered one of the most difficult to master in all of North America. And now, our drivers will face off against the tricky triangle as we get ready to watch round 6 of the Lotus 49 Grand Prix Legend Series. And you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is IMSA driver Joey Atterbury. Behind the scenes is our director, Robert O'Brien, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beer. If you haven't seen Pocono before, let's step in a little closer and get an introduction with our GSRC track guide.
Pocono Raceway in Long Pond, Pennsylvania is probably one of the most unique oval tracks in the country and has a long and storied history of racing. Opening in 1971, they wanted this place to be different, so why not make it have 3 turns? That's right, a triangle. But isosceles triangles are boring, so let's model each turn differently with different radiuses and banking, and they did. So around here, you have this incredibly long front straight, known as the Long Pond Straight, 3,740 feet long and 100 feet wide. It's known for the incredible fanning out that happens in starts and restarts, but you have to get it sorted before you get to turn 1. Turn 1 is banked at 14 degrees, modeled after the old Trenton Speedway. It gets tight quick, and you need to pick the right line to be fast here. Your lap depends on it. Turn 2 is banked at 9 degrees and inspired by the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. It's fast and quick, and if you hear somebody refer to the tunnel turn during the race, it's turn 2 they're talking about with the tunnel to the infield running underneath. Turn 3 is only banked at 6 degrees, and it's modeled after Milwaukee. It's long and sweeping, almost feels like it won't end before you jump back onto that truly endless front stretch. Pocono is most known for stock car racing, but it was originally designed for open-wheel racing, and USAC Kart and IndyCar all had tenures here. Today, we're racing the old version of Pocono with no apron on turn 1 of that old bumpy track surface that'll put the tricky in tricky triangle.
Well, this should be a fun day out here, Joey, as they always have at least one oval during the season in the Lotus 49s.
I can't wait to see the action today, especially on this tricky triangle. Pocono Raceway, you see here 2.5 miles, but don't let it fool you. It is very difficult, very high speed, the most high speed going down the front straightaway into turn 1. You're going to have variable banking, variable radius on all 3 of these turns. And, you know, Joe, I learned something new this week. I know that it is 3 turns here, but there's an old argument that technically Pocono is also 5 turns.
Okay, can you expand on that one?
Because this course was made off of all old oval turns. Technically, turn 1 is turns 1 and 2 from another course. Turns 2 is a standard, and then turn 3 is 4 and 5 from Indianapolis, I believe. Well, it would be 4 and 5.
2 is Indianapolis, and 3
there
is
it is. Yes.
Is Trenton. Interesting.
So yeah, the old argument of not 3 turns, but 5 turns here at Pocono.
I can buy that. I like that. All right, well, let's take a look at the championship as we quibble over details here. And up at the top, Xavier Sanchez, with his 2 wins, has been leading the way, but he had a bad race last time at Willow Springs. So Togo Hisada is now within 5 points of him, as Jorge Nieva is still trailing back in 3rd and still very much in touch. Now, Gary Ho hasn't really been as quick, although he's been getting top 10s all season. I think his consistency is carrying him more than anything. Salgado at times has been there or thereabouts as well. Also, watch out for Ben Zocco, who's been kind of hovering around potential podiums this season. Neil Kemp and David Rossi tied on that 7th position, with about 10 back to Jason Clapper, who had not the greatest of races last time, but falls back a little bit. He has been hovering in that top 10 in points in the F1 standings, despite never qualifying, which is impressive. Let's take a look at the F2 standings in the meantime.
Right now, it is Steve Morris leading the charge. Check this out, 26 points over Bjorn Ackerman. Then it tightens up between Bjorn, Andrew Eng, and Jonathan Jordan, all kind of stuck there within a battle. And then check this out. From Jan Steffen all the way down to Kirk Clapper, so that includes Derek Matthews, Thomas Tuba as well. Only a handful of points separating these, but I can't wait to see what this oval of Pocono can bring. Maybe somebody like Cam Porter is going to go up there and sneak away a win.
Yeah, although I think he said he's not as good at ovals. He tends to be better at the road courses. Now, in the Cup of Nations, Spain is still dominating up there, with Japan trailing quite a bit. They've got a lot of drivers here representing the Spanish contingent up at the top. United States also quite far behind, about 30 points back from Japan. And they do have a lot of drivers, but don't seem to have the speed that we've seen out of Spain and Japan. Australia back there is fighting closely with both them and, appropriately, the United Kingdom behind them. Now we got another tie between Singapore and Germany, and that is mostly going to be Sebastian, who is contributing there to Singapore. But Gary Ho, as we saw, is very high in the points, so I'm pretty sure he's been putting in a lot of them in this last race when he had a pretty decent one. So let's take a look at our race details. Slightly more laps than what we're used to here.
Yeah, we are, but it's round 6 of 12. That means we're halfway through this season. 37 laps, like you were just mentioning, Joe. So plenty of time to get it settled out on the racetrack. No spare car as usual, and the regular 17X and 25X disqualification. Once again, I don't see it becoming a problem here today's race. It's going to be the wall and other competitors' tires that are going to be the major factor.
And we have to remember that the way they do it in this series is they don't have cautions on the oval races. So you need to stay out of trouble and keep with that front group. Right now, Mick Claridge, who is back briefly, is up at the top and has the provisional pole, but it is by 1/100th of a second over Jim Shedlick. Jim tends to be quite quick himself. As we watch the last of our drivers get across the line, Yuri Giesen has already taken his 2 laps, and he goes into 13th, and that's the end of our qualifying, so nobody can do any more at this stage. Mick Claridge returns with the pole as Jim Shedlick will start next to him. Emil Bernstorff will start from 3rd, and Jonathan Jordan will be P4. Shunsuke Tashima is in 5th, and Neil Kemp starting 6th. Then you've got Jack David Spickett in P7. Sanchez not doing too good on the ovals here. He'll start all the way down from 8th despite leading the points. Dara Frattini's 9th, and Nacho Gaspar also having a tough transition. He only qualified 10th.
And then we have Seamus Power here in 11th, Maximilian Sennemuller in 12th, Yuri Giesen 13th, Bruce Snelson 14th, Kyle Ridley inside the top 15. Here's another familiar name from a different series, Heitor Sentes Galindo here in 16th, Ellis Spice 17th, David Silva 18th, Mason Grigiol in 19th, Jason Clapper 20th, and 2 more back here, Kurt Clapper and Robert Plumley.
And then you've got the drivers already on the grid, but it is a pace lap, a rolling start, as is traditional here on the ovals. So we'll have some time before they get back around. And it's a little bit hot on the track. Now, normally on road courses, that will make some difference, but and racing like this, where setup is everything, Joey, I got to imagine that I hope they've got a hot setup today.
It's going to be slippery, but the other thing I'm noticing, not very high on the wind speed, so I think it should be somewhat stable. It's just going to be managing that tire underneath you with those hot temperatures. Make sure to don't abuse the tires too early.
And I believe we've got 3 different onboard cams here today, and while we've got everybody lined up and ready before the chaos starts to unfold, I wonder if we could take a look at each of those that we've got on board. First is Mick Claridge comes back, and he's called it the barbecue rig, and I think it's the Hell on Toast cam or something to that effect is what he's called it. But He's got himself set up with his VR headset to a barbecue set, it looks like. So very creative setup for him since he is kind of in temporary housing. And then I believe we have Cam Porter. Is he up next here? We're going to take a look at him. We often have his, so this shouldn't be any great surprise. Oh no, Cam's in the other split. We hadn't mentioned that. We have two splits here today. Do we have our third driver? Because I know we have another one. Glenn Becker is also in the other split. So Mick's the only one that made it, unfortunately. A bit sad for the other guys. A lot have shown up, which I have to confess, I did not expect, Joey, that we would have a split for this one, because not only is the oval racing unusual for this series and tends to trim down on the attendance, we've got the iRacing Spa 24 hours today, which pulls a lot of people away.
You know, I wasn't even considering that, but you're right. It's an impressive attendance here at Pocono, and I always love these races. It's kind of the change-up, the curveball in the series, and it brings new faces to the front. We're used to seeing our regular competitors get up there, dominate these races, but I love the ovals for the simple fact that we get new, fresh talent at the front mixing it up.
Absolutely. Although in this case, Claridge and Shedlick are not new talents up there. They've definitely raced plenty of times in this series. Now, Emil Bernstorff, from what I understand, has done something unique. He has won, I think it is in every road series so far this season. I need to go and check exactly how this works out and how they worded it, but he's gone and raced in just about every series there is and won at least one race so far. So we'll see if he can bring one in here on an unusual combination as the green flag is out. And Mick Claridge gets a pretty good jump. Look at them fan out as they usually do here at Pocono, flying down into the first turn. And will they be able to sort this out?
I see 4 wide going into turn 1, but everybody leaves inches of space. It's still Mick Claridge out front, Jim Shedlick and Emil Bernstorff in third.
Yep, so far everybody's made it through the first turn. Now coming up to turn 2 here, the tunnel turn. Shedlick gets a good run, and he's going to overtake Mick Claridge. You're going to see a lot of that here today. Someone drifting way up high. That's Jonathan Jordan, who manages to keep it off the wall.
Yeah, and 2 cars actually snuck through underneath. Jonathan Jordan still 2 wide going through turn 3 here all the way up top on the racetrack. He's just got to be careful with the gas right now. As long as he can close off the end of this corner, you should have some good straight line speed, but he's still 3 wide.
And in front of them, everybody gets a huge pull. This straightaway is so long and wide. They have literally landed an airplane on this thing before. And coming down into turn 1, Shedlick is not going to lose the lead, surprisingly. Wonder if Mick already knows the game and is just going to wait for the right moment.
I'm impressed with Nacho Gaspar. Remember that name, Joe? He was up there, and if I remember correctly, he won not too long ago. He's already made his way up 5 positions into the top 5.
Yeah, Nacho is one of the 4 drivers to have won this season. Sanchez, Dieva, and Hisada are the others, but we don't see Togo Hisada here today, sadly. He said he wasn't sure if he was going to be able to make it because I think he did say he was going to try and run the 24, so he's probably off with a team currently. He does have Sunsuke Tsushima here to represent Japan, who's still sitting in 4th. And you can see him running there on the high side up towards the wall in a bit of a fight with Nacho Gaspar himself. Now Mick Claridge decides it's time to go, and he takes the lead away from Shedlick.
Yeah, a little bit too deep into turn 1. We'll see what the exit's going to be like for Mick Claridge. Looks like he's able to hang on to it, but a nice corner from Jim Shedlick to slot right back in line. A little bit busier further back. I believe Maximilian Sennemuller trying to make a move on Nacho Gaspar, but it's really... Oh, geez, Joe. I mean, the top 10 are all in a line.
Yeah, I kind of expected this. I figured it's going to be hard to get away from everybody. Honestly, nobody seems to be outside of the draft in the entire field. All 22 of them are still within range, but it's only lap 3. We'll see if things start to spread out, if we have any sort of incident as the race carries on. Shedlick wants it back immediately, though, and he is looking to the inside as they fly down to 1 once again.
I'm curious how the race is going to play out with who battles for the lead here, Joe. Who wants the clean air? Who's going to be up there fighting for second place, wanting the draft? And right now, Mick Claridge seems to want the lead. And most importantly, he was also the leader crossing the line that time when he was also the leader exiting turn 3.
Yeah, that's a good point. Can you slingshot past your rival on the run to the finish and not even have to lead until out of the last corner as they all get back to single file? Hard to be too wide here coming through the tunnel turn. Notorious for being difficult trying to stay wheel to wheel through there. But into the final turn 3 and up to the main straight, your top 5, Claridge, Shedlick, Bernstorff, Tashima, Gaspar.
And I think it's going to be just a duel between Shedlick and Claridge all day long. I mean, look at this. Side by side once again. I think Mick actually lifts this time. Lets Shedlick lead a lap.
I think he realizes he's going to have to play nice here at the start. Remember, we got 37 laps to complete. Tashima around the outside of Nacho Gaspar as they are going to go side by side through turn 1 and carry it on down the back stretch, the long pond straight where Mick Claridge approaches but lifts as he reaches the gearbox of Shedlick.
I tell you, Shinsuke getting all the way up close to the back end of Emil Bernstorff right behind, but Mick Claridge is focused on one thing and one thing only, that is the lead.
Indeed, not worrying about what's behind him, at least for the moment, but we haven't seen Bernstorff try and challenge these two quite yet. Wonder if he's just playing patient. We're hopping on board with him now. The Club Iberia driver is going to get a huge run, but decides to actually take a look, and Claridge is going to give him space on entry, runs a little bit of a higher line.
I've noticed Mick is given plenty of space in turn 1. He's being very respectful with his competitors out on the racetrack, and I don't blame him. Turn 1 is probably the area that you're going to get the most people looking inside.
Ooh, Emil's now got to worry because he has to leave room on the bottom. Nacho Gaspar taking a go. Tashima almost looked at the high side, but then backed out of it because 3 wide through the tunnel turn absolutely won't work. They're going to get back to single file. Bernstorff does hold on to 3rd place.
Yeah, slips a little bit wide here in turn number 3. Nacho Gaspar with a really good run coming out of the final turn, but it's all going to come down to the slipstream. I actually think Nacho's got a little bit of a run on Emil. He's been showing his nose down low into turn 1 the last few laps. Here he goes again.
This time he's much farther alongside, sends it in deep, but he's shallow into the corner. Can he make it stick? It looks like he can. Bernstorff may be thinking about an over-under. He does get the launch off the turn, and in front of them, Mick Claridge with his monster run also lifts again. And wow, yeah, that was I thought the 2 cars with huge bits of momentum were going to see some 2 wide coming up here, but no, they play safe.
I think you saw Emil kind of lift and say, you know what, Nacho, if you want to go up and attack these guys, go for it. And here we go. He's taking a look down to the inside of Mick Claridge into turn 3, but it's all about the power coming off of this corner.
Remember, Nacho has been racing more often this season, although he did miss a couple rounds, so he'll come into play once the drop points start to get applied. Whereas Mick Claridge and Jim Shedlick have missed way too many races. They are not in the championship hunt, and Nacho has a good opportunity here to play catch-up to both Sanchez and Hisada.
Just look at the savvy competitor from Mick Claridge, once again leaving plenty of room down on the bottom of the racetrack, and that provides him a great run down to turn 2. But look at this. Another lift off the throttle from Mick Claridge. That's going to allow Emil Bernstorff to look down to the inside, and Nacho Gaspar trying to take a look for the lead.
Almost there, but not quite. They're in the short chute coming down into turn 3 now. What's he do here? He could try and set up Shedlick, or we could see Claridge try and come back at him. Claridge, once again, running those higher lines. Seems to have a car that likes to run to the outside.
I think that's a little bit of safety. It's also, I think, a savvy move, Joe. I mentioned it earlier. It allows you to really get the run off of the corner. But look at this. Nacho Gaspar down low, taking over the lead.
Wow. So Nacho is going to move himself to the front, 9 positions up from where he started this race in 10th. Now, he's not going to have it for long, potentially. Shedlick's got the inside. I don't think Nacho really wants to fight this one too hard, but we'll see if he has other thoughts in his head. And he does. He's going to send it in deep into the tunnel turn and carry it around the outside. Impressive defense.
You know, I gotta say, this group was relatively well-mannered, but it looks like Nacho just came in here and threw some jalapenos on it, and it got spicy.
Absolutely. And Claridge thinks about trying to pass Shedlick. Can't quite get through in turn 3. They all close together. Who pokes their nose out down to the inside? It's going to be Bernstorff, actually. And he's looking at getting all 3 in one go. He's got huge speed down to the first turn. Just gets to the back of Gaspar, but can't get them all.
Mick Claridge shuffled all the way back to what's going to be 5th place, maybe 4th, coming out of turn number 2, but side by side from Bernstorff and Shedlick. And Joe, what we're seeing, the drafting games, they're lifting on the outside lane, the inside lane just staying flat foot.
And we're starting to see a little bit of separation between this pack and the ones behind. It goes back to Jack David Spickett in 13th, and they've got some drop-off now. In fact, they are fanning out quite a bit in this group. We've been seeing a ton of side-by-side racing like you see here on board with Claridge. Bernstorff down to the inside of him. And as they accelerate down the main straight once again, they've also got 2x2 behind them. I believe that is Tashima and Frattini. And unfortunately for Mick, he's kind of boxed in.
That's the best way to put it, is that outside lane is boxed in. You got the wall to the right side, you got your competitor to the left side, and you're drafting somebody in front of you that you can't drive through.
There you can see the gap, and I think it looks like, yeah, down behind 13th, that is, oh, actually, no, Sintez Galindo's catching them along with Jason Clapper and Kyle Ridley. So it's becoming a 16-car battle. They just managed to get themselves within the slipstream and are catching up. But from there on back, it absolutely is a breakup. Kurt Clapper's leading this second pack, which includes Plumley, Snelson, Silva, Spice, and Mason in the number 20 has dropped off of them.
Oh, and I think we actually just had a little bit of contact between Maximilian Sandemuller. But, Joe, I'm so impressed. Look at this. This is like 15 cars.
It's amazing. I mean, we saw when IndyCar was here, it's very easy to get the cars kind of together as Jordan once again finds himself drifting way up to the edge. Someone just brushing the wall on the Long Pond Straight.
Oh, here comes another look down the inside. This is Dario Frattini, also up 5 positions, making a move down the inside of Mick Claridge and almost 3 wide coming off of 2.
Oof, Dario has suddenly become a factor in a big way there as he goes through the inside of Mick Claridge. Can he get it done? Oh, and the Japanese driver, Shunsuke, is way to the outside. I thought he was going to clip the wall, but somehow he keeps up with everybody. I'm not sure how long he's going to be able to run that far out because surely it's getting dirty and full of marbles that close to the wall.
Yeah, the further you go off of the racing line, that's where all of the dust and the dirt gets kicked off, right? As you're driving, you're cleaning the racing line. So the further you go off it, the slipperier it becomes.
Up at the front, Gaspar leads. Bernstorff and Shedlick vying for second place. Frattini now has Mick Claridge to his inside as he's going to try the low line for once. He's been running up high for so long now. That's actually going to work pretty well. He moves into 4th.
Been watching Emil. He's been curiously taking advantage of the draft and the cars getting boxed in on the outside. I think he took some notes from what Nacho did because really once Nacho went through the field, he had stayed at the front.
Ooh, and I'm starting to see a few cars maybe having issues with handling. Frattini as, wow, big dive to the inside by Mick Claridge trying to fight on Bernstorff, but then backs out of it. But Frattini got very loose coming off of the final turn.
And that can happen if you're just got too much wheel cranked into it, or if you're getting too happy with your right foot. You roll onto that throttle too soon, you spin up those rear tires, and here we go. Another run from Mick Claridge, but it's weird, Joe. It seems like when Mick Claridge comes out into this wall of air, all of his momentum just comes to a halt.
Absolutely. And he's got to try and watch out for that. Now, maybe he has just a tiny little damage on the car or something that can make an effect on the straight line in these things, as they don't have downforce, but they do need to be slippery through the air and still to the outside. He cannot track out because up on his high side, it is Frattini once again. And it's a drag race down to turn one. You can see that front wheel right to the outside, and Mick is going to be able to out-drag him all the way to the braking zone.
Yeah, but now he's too wide with Emil to his outside, and also Dario trying to creep back in here. And one thing about turn one, Joe, is it's classic for over-under moves.
Absolutely. It's the most banked of the three corners and gives you a nice run down the Long Pond straight. Here coming into the tunnel turn, modeled after Indianapolis. And lots of too wide, a lot more than you'd tend to see at Indianapolis, but I guess these cars can make it work. And then finally, Milwaukee, the most shallow of the corners. Feels like it just goes on forever, but so critical to get the launch off of it.
It really is. I always found turn number 3 here at Pocono to be the most interesting. You're right, it's the most flat, and it's the most crucial leading onto the longest straightaway.
Wow, big run by Mick. In fact, he's going to get both the leaders. Maybe Nacho clings to that lead, unwilling to give it away quite yet, and uses that high side to get the shot down the Long Pond straight. Mick cannot take P1 away. Behind him, Jim Shedlick is going to also get boxed in himself, has no place to take his speed.
I'm just really impressed with what Gaspar is doing up front. Oh, so close there between Claridge and Shedlick through turn number 2. But remember, we saw Claridge and Shedlick battling back and forth for the lead. It wasn't until Gaspar got out front that somebody is in control of this race.
So they fly off of Milwaukee once again down the main straight at the back of this little kind of mini pack, if you will. Bernstorff, whoa, Shinsuke way to the inside at the last moment, and he's fully ahead. Can he send it in deep enough? Oh, the car's loose. He has to catch it. Mick Claridge manages to sneak underneath. No contact made, but a scary moment.
What a save from Tashima there into turn number 1. He gathers it up, and look at this. Now he's still got some momentum, doing over 180 miles an hour, hunting down our leader.
Like I said, I wonder if some of these cars are struggling towards the farther end of the stint. We're on lap 17 now, and it's still quite a hot track out there at 96 Fahrenheit. We've had a lot of clouds to try and cool it down, but you got to make sure you keep hold of that rubber.
Joe, well, lap 17... last time I checked, we're not even halfway, so if these competitors are struggling with their tires, they better grip it tight.
Still a battle for the lead between Claridge and Gaspar. In fact, it is Noah's Ark here for the top 4, 2 by 2, and 3 wide behind them, trying to stick his nose up the middle. That is, trying to figure out, that's Frattini.
Yeah, Dario's really making his presence felt right in the middle of this pack, and we're still 3 wide, headed down into turn 2. Dario's going to try to think about 4 wide.
And someone back there now going up the middle. That is Max Mueller. Haven't talked about him in quite some time, but suddenly he is a factor in this. Meanwhile, here goes Jim Shedlick inside of Gaspar down into Milwaukee. Question is, can he get the run on the front straight? Oh, no, contact! And there goes Mick Claridge. He is gone.
Oh, heavy impact, but only one car involved in this accident. Unfortunately, it is Mick Claridge. The race goes on.
Looks like Jonathan Jordan is down into pit lane as well. Gaspar falls back into 6th. Mueller's back down to 4th. I also see Neil Kemp into pit lane. Looks like Kyle Ridley may have been involved too.
Yeah, and I'm checking this out. I think it was 2 separate accidents. What happened with Mick was a little bit early in the corner, and then we get 3 wide. These cars just come together right here on the exit.
Really unfortunate. I mean, it was close, hard racing. I'm honestly impressed that it took them this long before we had an accident, because that was some fierce stuff.
It was bound to happen at some point, Joe. You're doing 190 miles an hour on old tires with no downforce. It's amazing what these guys are doing.
Even in that last corner, their slowest speeds are looking to be about 145. So, yeah, they are absolutely flying. And we're still 3 wide for a second, as that's Frattini around the outside who's going to dive it as far as it can go. Max Mueller is in a side-by-side battle with Emil Bernstorff, though.
And Shedlick is trying to check out of this battle. This is the biggest lead our leader has had the entire race, but here at Pocono, the draft is just too strong. You're not going to see him run away.
This has separated them somewhat. This now goes back to Tashima in 7th, and there's a little mini group of Sanchez, Sintes Galindo, and Jack David Spickett trying to play catch-up. That or they're just waiting patiently with a little bit of gap after some of the chaos may have put them off their appetite.
I think a little bit of both, Joe. I think that if you remember Aitor Sintes Galindo, I think that was part of the second pack. Same thing with Jason Clapper, but they've slowly been able to catch this front pack.
Another go there for the lead from Bernstorff. He's going to get down to the inside of Shedlick, but Shedlick's got a nose ahead, and Frattini's going to follow him. Bottom line might be shorter, but it's not as fast right now. Around the outside, Mueller is going to be able to pull up behind the gearbox and actually has an open if he wants to try and stick his nose out, but he decides no, he doesn't.
I'm curious to see when these cars are going to start to go on the loose side like we saw a little bit earlier from Tashima. Are we going to have more competitors burning off their rear tires, or are we going to see more of the draft battle down the front straightaway for the passes?
Absolutely. I'm kind of impressed that the handling has been as good as it's looked so far. This track is notorious for being hard to set up a car because it is literally 3 different corners of different radius and banking. So how do you get it to be good in one and the other two?
Well, you put somebody that's good behind the wheel. That's how you do it, Joe.
I like that answer. Well, right now, Shedlick's the one that's the best behind the wheel as he's leading the race. Maximilian has a little bit of a blink there back in 3rd and 4th, but he's back rolling once again. And he's got Nacho Gaspar looking to the inside, down into turn 2. He's going to keep his nose in it, but can't keep the speed off.
It's just so interesting. I know that we were so packed together for the top 10, top 12, not but a few laps ago, and now it's a little bit more of a single file race. Totally different change of shape here.
The ebb and the flow, the nature of racing in these cars on an oval, it's honestly like nothing else that I've seen in terms of paved oval racing. Dario Frattini now wants his opportunity to try to get to the front. It's not quite Talladega-style racing. It is not quite dirt track-style racing. It's really its own thing out here.
You know, I guess you could kind of relate it to some sprint cars out here at Pocono because the way they're hucking it into turn 1 and then use the throttle to come out kind of looks like Florence out there, doesn't it, Joe?
It does. It's really fascinating. And the driver's now going to go double file once again as to the inside. Nacho Gaspar is going to try and take the lead away from Frattini, who tries to dive it in deep. Frattini really liking trying to put that car on the edge and get it loose from time to time. And this time it bites him because he falls off of Gaspar.
And here we go, another big draft battle. Who's poking it 3 wide back here? It's the entrance of Xavier Sanchez, somebody who didn't necessarily have the best qualifying effort, but looking down 3 wide all the way at the bottom.
Sanchez has got to be a little concerned about Gaspar here. See if he can maybe try and put him behind him so that he doesn't gain too many points at this stage. So they fly down the long pond straight. Gaspar still leads them all, and Sanchez falls back down to 8th. Maybe biding his time, maybe just doesn't feel confident. We won't know until afterwards as we come down into turn 3 once again. It's Gaspar versus Frattini. Bernstorff versus Frattini for 2nd.
You were talking about the ebbs and flows of this race, and one thing that I've noticed, Joe, we got Nacho Gaspar out in the lead, but when he wasn't leading, he got shuffled back to like 5th, 6th, 7th place. Same thing happened to Jim Shedlick. He was leading, and when he got passed for the lead, look at him. He's all the way back in 5th place right now.
Indeed. It seems like things can kind of change very quickly here. You can go from hero to zero. and just a snap of a finger, as we saw from Mick Claridge. And as they fly down the backstretch, currently it goes down to that number 2 of Jason Clapper in 11th. Otherwise, you can see the gap is tremendous to the next pack behind them.
Oh, it's starting to get really busy. Here comes Xavier Sanchez once again with a move down to the inside. This is going to go down into turn 3. You know, I got to give a tip of the cap to Xavier. He's not going hair on fire into these corners. He's given respect even with 3 wide.
Oh, almost 4 wide for a moment there in the middle of the pack, but they're going to be able to get out of it safely. Everybody fanning out. Thankfully, they have all these dotted lines to kind of help you pick a lane here and figure out where everybody's running. But down into turn 1, Gaspar versus Bernstorff for the lead. But I think Emil might have it coming off the turn. He's very high, and he carries the momentum.
Yeah, just able to get on the throttle a little bit sooner than Nacho here. And then here we come up to Indianapolis. This is Frattini now making a move to the inside of Gaspar. Can Gaspar hold it around the outside? He's trying to, and also side by side between Shedlick and Giesen.
They see a little bit of a gap form. Bernstorff is able to pull 0.3 away, but that is not going to be enough to fully get out of this group. Not by a long shot. They're going to probably reel him in at some stage here unless they fight way too hard behind them. Nacho Gaspar gets a nice little boost, and it's 3 wide down into 1 once again. Somebody's going to have to give way here. Shedlick's way around the outside, and he's going to try and ride the rim. Can he do it successfully? He beats out both of the lower drivers and moves into 3rd.
That was a great move from Jim Shedlick, and trust me, he had both cars underneath him dancing on the loose side. Very risky.
Gaspar down into the tunnel turn now. As he comes into there, he's able to get to the inside but not complete the pass. Emil looks very tough in his day. I kind of wonder if that 3 has figured things out, because he likes to fight up towards the front. We saw him aggressively move his way here towards the top group and is not really given up the lead as easily as some of the other drivers.
And traditionally, with oval racing, if you run the top, you have higher momentum going down the front straightaway. And 3 wide for the lead going into turn 1. That's Yuri Giesen coming from way far back.
That was brave stuff out of Yuri. I think he's thinking it's getting towards the end now. Lap 28 out of 37. He's got to get involved in it, and he has in a big way. 3 wide here for second place, maybe for the lead, but they're going to back out as Bernstorff will hold it round the outside. Yuri hasn't learned how to carry that speed. Gaspar is going to beat him through the tunnel turn.
And Shedlick even did an over-under on Yuri as well, but Dario Frattini's trying to poke his nose down in here, and here we go. Bernstorff, Gaspar, Shedlick, your top 3.
Frattini nearly had contact there with Mueller as well. We already had that once between Claridge and Gaspar, so I wouldn't be too shocked if we get another 2 cars that maybe aren't paying as much attention. You do have the iRacing spotter to help you even if you don't have a physical one, but there are limitations on how quickly that system can call the car.
You're right. You do have to kind of leave it up to iRacing to help you out. And what I always found is when I'm in a car, when I make a mistake, I know that somebody can be approaching. So you just have to have that knowledge, have that heads up thinking on the racetrack.
Oh, look at how close they're willing to race here. As a reminder, this is 160 miles an hour. They are flying right now. I know Xavier Sanchez has Boeing on the side of his car, but it's going to be an absolute plane wreck of a crash if they do come together.
Absolutely, and I'm just happy that the wreck earlier was only a couple cars, and here we go. Gaspar, Bernstorff, Shedlick, Giesen, 2 by 2 by 2 by 2 for the top 8.
Down into turn 1 once again, chopping off a little bit. Gaspar getting maybe slightly more aggressive on Emil and preventing him from getting any sort of run. Shedlick comes up behind Nacho and just lifts off the throttle slightly. Don't think anybody is saving fuel at this stage here. I think this is everybody all out. Was that Sanchez?
I believe we had Xavier Sanchez with the problem. Not exactly sure what happened. We're going to get a quick replay of this.
And he just disappeared on my screen. I don't know if he manually disconnected. I think that was an Alt F4 to prevent a big accident.
Yeah, and I'm watching. I mean, Joe, this is one of the worst cases of netcode I think I have ever seen. We're just going to go ahead and skip back up to the action.
Yeah, I think he just clipped the wall a little bit and couldn't get it out of it. As soon as the car started to go, he bailed, trying to make sure that nobody else hit him. Honestly, an admirable thing to do, because he could have maybe tried to stick with it, but now he's not going to score many points. In the meantime, coming down the back stretch and into turn 2. Once again, they stack up in a big way. Thankfully, no accident, but that is one thing that we haven't seen as much, that everybody had to be really heads up right there.
And the laps are starting to count down. We are coming to 6 laps to go. And I just want to give some credit where credit is due. This back of the pack here, Jack David Spickett, Jason Clapper, Aitor Sintes Galindo, Joe, remember, they were in the second pack at one point. They caught these guys.
Incredible stuff. I mean, they've been fooling around a lot. Here is that second pack right now. That's got Kurt Clapper, Robert Plumley, David Silva, and Bruce Nelson. That's going from 11th to 14th. So still some decent points worth battling for there, as here we go again. Emil down to the inside. Nacho Gaspar going to try and fight it the hard way around. He certainly seems to like that line. He's got it figured out, and he's going to hold the lead, but just barely.
We talked about different names coming to the front of these races, and we usually have our regular oval competitors like Jim Shedlick and our regulars like Mick Claridge, but Joe, did you think we were going to be talking about Bernstoff and Gaspar here with 5 to go?
Not really, especially Gaspar's qualifying. Maybe he just messed it up. I thought that he wasn't going to be a factor, and Shedlick says, I will absolutely be a part of this. He's going to get down to the inside and take the lead away.
Oh, and so close. I believe that was Yuri Giesen almost into the back of Nacho Gaspar into turn 1, but things are getting incredibly close.
Oh, into the wall. That was Max Mueller. Scrapes along it. He's going to lose the draft. It's down to 9 left in this front group. So they are dwindling away either by their own mistakes or accidents now, as it is becoming fewer and fewer. How many will be left when we get to 1 to go?
Hopefully all of them, and everybody is going to be smiling at the end of this one. But I tell you what, only one person. Oh, huge slide out of Shedlick coming out of 3.
Oh, I thought he was heading right for the wall. I can't believe he kept his speed up down to the inside. Is that Yuri Giesen once again? We've seen him pull that inside move once. No, that's Frattini. That's Dario that's going to take the lead away.
But look at Shedlick. The over-under move. I shouldn't even call it an over-under move. It's just a power move around the outside. Defends the lead.
High, wide, and handsome there for the number 1, but underneath them, Gaspar does use the over-under and carries his speed down into the tunnel turn. He now takes it right away. Frattini is only able to get 3rd despite a brave move to the front.
And Aitor Sintes Galindo now in 5th place. Also got Frattini poking his nose down to the inside of 3. I think Shedlick's going nice and wide on entry, trying to narrow up the exit.
Somehow, Mueller has caught this group. I guess the damage wasn't too bad, and he was able to catch them back up. There you see him at the back of the pack. Can he still maybe take a win here? Jim Shedlick is going to snatch the top spot from Gaspar, at least temporarily. But last time, Jim went around the outside to take the lead. This time, he's going to be fast down at the bottom.
I think Shedlick is just showing his oval prowess right now. He's been hanging out inside the top 5 the entire time, but Nacho Gaspar says, you know what? I feel like another win here in this series.
And Jim, of course, is one of the few Americans in this front group right now. So appropriate that he has got some talent. In fact, I believe he's over 5,000 iRating here on the oval side. This is their oval licenses that we see, as we're going to come down to 2 to go. And it's still wheel to wheel for the lead with 10 cars viable for the victory.
The biggest thing that I've noticed in difference here is Jim Shedlick is starting to get up on the wheel. He's been drafting, he's been passing all race long, but this time he's starting to go up, grab it, and take control of this race car.
A lot of drivers racing very closely now. I'm seeing less room given between this group through the corners. Everybody's starting to get aggressive. And in fact, speaking of no room, Sintez Galindo has no place to go there as Jason Clapper getting in amongst it. Jason, if he could get his first win, this would be incredible.
Oh, look at him. Here he goes around the outside. Also got Aitor Sintez Galindo in here. Emil Bernstoff trying to take a nose down to the inside. But Joe, going through turn 3, it's all about Shedlick and Gaspar.
Sintez Galindo up 13, Clapper up 14 right now. Incredible inroads from the back of the pack. White flag, 1 to go as we go for the lead side by side down into turn 1. Gaspar on the inside, Shedlick on the outside. Behind them, they are 2 wide, basically all the way down to 10th.
And Shedlick is going to fight tough on the outside. Look at how close they are coming up out of turn 1. I think this is where Shedlick wants to be, is on the outside.
Who is able to carry it? Who can keep their foot in the gas? That's the question, especially coming off the final turn. Somebody loses it down to the inside and slides back across. Somebody way up high as well. I think that may have sent Sintez Galindo, and we got a massive accident with Frattini getting sent up into the air, but it is still Shedlick and Gaspar. But they've got Emil Bernstorff back in third. This is it. Who is going to get the run to the finish line? They are neck and neck as they fly off of turn 3 with a little bit more for Shedlick. Here comes Bernstorff, but it looks like it's going to be Shedlick as they cross the line, and it is by 0.003 of a second.
The top 3 separated by 2/100ths of a second. Jim Shedlick around the outside carries the momentum. Nacho Gaspar second. Emil Bernstoff third.
Unbelievable stuff there at the finish. Yes, it got a little bit messy, but the battle for the win stayed clean. 3 wide across that finish line. Absolutely amazing stuff. And I believe that is going to take us to a quick break here. We'll come back with the official results as well as driver interviews, so don't go away. Welcome back to Pocono after we watched round 6 here for the Grand Prix Legends Series. Their regular season oval race wound up being one of the best we've ever seen as Jim Shedlick won by 0.003 of a second over Nacho Gaspar, and Emil Bernstorff was only 0.03 behind Jim as well. There was literal inches between the three of them at the line. Max Mueller lost the group with about 3 laps to go and fought his way back to them and still finished in 4th despite hitting the wall at one point. Tashima was P5 as Yuri Giesen certainly became one to watch there at the end, becoming very aggressive and taking 6th because of that. Jack David Spickett was 7th, and Kurt Clapper wasn't with the front group, but still went from 21st to 8th there at the end. Ellis Spice was 9th, and Jonathan Jordan rounds out your top 10.
Then here in 11th, Bruce Snelson up a few positions. Aitor Sintez Galindo, he was fighting a little bit further up, falls down to 12th at the end. Dario Fertini, kind of the same story, finishes 13th. Jason Clapper with an incident on the last lap, got shoved off the track, finishes 14th, and the last car on the lead lap. The rest of them actually DNFs, Robert Plumley, David Silva, Xavier Sanchez, Neil Kemp, Kyle Ridley, and Seamus Power. And unfortunately, Mick Claridge out early, Mason Grigiel as well.
Indeed. So there's your 22 cars here in the top split, and the winner in the top split, Jim Shedlick, here to join us. Jim, congratulations. That one was very, very close, but did you feel confident on that last lap on where you wanted to place your car and that you could take it to the line first?
Thanks. Yeah, that was an intense race. Great battle just the whole way through. I was in the spot I wanted to be, which is pretty much on the outside. You have to kind of trust the car on the inside in that situation, but I knew that the outside was probably going to get the run, and that's where I wanted to be, and it worked out.
Now, one of our spotters was listening closely and noticed that you seemed to be clutching on the way into the corners. Now, we were talking about that, and I was like, surely he's not saving fuel. So did you figure out some sort of trick on the car, or were we just hearing wrong?
Definitely not a trick. It was in fact saving fuel. It turns out I'd made a gearing change before the race, and this track was pretty cool. So we were using a lot more throttle than I expected, and I was burning more fuel than I had on board. I realized about lap 5, so I spent most of the next 25 laps saving fuel, actually. But fortunately, this is a good spot to do it, because I could just kind of park on the outside line behind whoever was in front of me, and just could stay in the top 5 pretty much the whole time, even clutching it.
Okay, my jaw's on the floor. I did not expect it to be that. Well, glad you made it to the finish. That makes it all the more impressive that you got this win. Are we going to be seeing any more of you for the rest of this season? Because glad to see you come around with ovals being one of your specialties, but I'd love to see you challenge some of these fast guys at the front.
Yeah, I hope so. I try to run 2 or 3 races a year, pick some tracks that I enjoy racing on, and so Pocono was one of the ones I hadn't raced on before. I figured it would just be a total brawl, which is exactly what it was. So yeah, I'm definitely going to take a look at the schedule and see if there are 1 or 2 more I can make this year.
I think I'm going to jot that one down as the best description I've heard. A total brawl. Incredible stuff, and congratulations, Jim.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Jim Shedlick, your winner here today, I believe. Up next, Joey's caught up with Yuri Giesen, who finished 6th.
Yeah, Yuri Giesen coming home with a 6th place finish, but you spent a lot of time battling at the front. What did you think of Pocono today?
Yeah, it was kind of good. I didn't expect to be up there actually, but I got lucky, I guess. So that went well.
And it looks like you qualified 13th, so a little bit more in the middle of the pack. What was it that took you up to the front? Was it just big drafts? We saw you pretty aggressive with some moves going down into turn 1.
Yeah, I had trouble getting everybody right in turn 1, so I sometimes took a little deep and then barely held on to it. But yeah, at the beginning of the race, I just took it easy and basically hung back at the back. It seemed to split right behind me, basically. So it was like, I'll just stay here for a while, and once I feel like I got runs, I'll just go down and pass people without too much effort. And apparently, people were not fighting for it too hard with, well, let's say 15 laps to go or so. So I could kind of move up easily, and then fell back a little bit again to finish 6th.
Well, Pocono's a little bit of the oddball track here in the schedule. What do you think about the ovals compared to the road racing, especially here in these Lotus 49 cars?
Well, I think it's a good it's a good break from the regular street and road circuit racing. But I think Pocono kind of feels like a road course, except that it only goes left. But other than that, it feels like long, challenging corners, and So for me, it's like it's a nice breeze. More people get a chance to get up there and challenge for the win or challenge for a podium, and it's close all the way through. So that makes it quite exciting. I love it.
I agree with you. It's close all the way through. You get to see some neat names up at the front, and Yuri Giesen, congratulations one more time on 6th place.
Thank you.
That was Yuri Giesen in the number 19 machine today.
And one of the first cars finishing a lap down, Heitor Sintes Galindo, was one corner shy of the finish after coming into that last lap, I believe, in about 3rd position or so. Heitor, I'm sure a disappointing finish, but it looked like an exciting race regardless.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was actually a pretty fun race. Not gonna lie. I expected nothing today. It was like, I was looking at Xavi today. Was signing up for Lotus, and like, you know what? Let's go. Let's have some different race from the usual camel race, and it was pretty fun. And somehow I didn't expect. I mean, it wasn't the pace, but for some reason, a lot of fancying my chances and picking up cars here and there. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm ashamed that I couldn't make to the turn 3, but I put it on myself going wide into turn 2. People scrambling for position, and yeah, it's last lap. This thing happened.
Yeah, I mean, we're used to seeing you over in Camel, which is known for its own little bit of chaos. How does this compare between the two and having to deal with so many unknowns?
It's a very good question. I would put it sort of like, when we're in the middle of the pack and you have to deal with 7 or 8 Audis fighting for position. But yeah, it was pretty interesting having to carry the skills from the line from NASCAR and such. It's a different story. I'm sure that if I were to race next week, I don't know when it is, but I'm sure it's a road course. I'm gonna be pretty much bottom of the middle pack again, but it's a fun story on the ovals. I think I'll be signed up for the next oval race on the Lotus 49ers.
We'll keep an eye out for it. We're glad to see you here, and I'm glad you had some fun.
Thank you, Joe. See you in a couple hours.
As Heitor Sintes Galindo finishing 12th, unfortunately, today, but certainly showed he had the speed. And real quick, from the barbecue rig, I believe Joey has caught up with Mick Claridge.
Since you got an early exit, did you get anything on that grill? Do we have anything to eat right now?
You know what? That's what I was thinking. The barbecue rig. I mean, it really turned up, didn't it? Just get your barbecue. Get the rig sorted out, stick it on pole, wreck out early, and then get some burgers on the go.
Well, I figured with some of those drivers with their hair on fire, it might be hot enough there in the sim rig that you can cook some stuff. But Mick, talk to us about what took you out early and how crazy it was in that pack of what was like 15 cars?
Do you know what? I'll tell you what, Joey, talk about, stress of a race to come back to. I mean, why couldn't it have been a nice, easy one like the Nürburgring or something like that, Because that was unbelievable. Because, when we started off, there's the wreck. Yeah, nice one, Robert. Cheers, mate. Yeah, so... oh man, it was unbelievable. I was thinking, we're gonna just start off, stay in a nice, quiet line. Just don't worry about anything. No, let's go 3 wide into turn 2 and stuff like that. Every lap. And there was part of me was thinking, shall I back off and just sit back? But then I looked in the mirror and I thought there was about 30 cars in the lead group. I thought, what's the point of doing that? I might as well try and ride it out, But yeah, the thing is, I don't know if you can tell in the background, we've got a bit of weather here today, so I had a bit of internet issues. So I had a couple of blinks early on, and I was literally thinking of ducking out the race because, yeah, when we get some weather here, I do get a bit of internet problems. So yeah, had a bit of a blink, and all the cars disappeared, and that was it. Came back out, and that was it. I just slowly rolled into whoever it was in front of me there. So yeah, so apologies to all the guys that got taken out there.
Well, I don't think that you took out any other cars, so thankfully,
okay.
It's only your feelings that are hurt today, Mick. And I know that we don't have anything official yet, but make sure to follow along with Mick and all of his adventures. I know there's some cool stuff coming up. Anybody you want to give a shout out to here, Mick, before we let you go?
So, do you know what? I've just thought, I got to thank the guys. There's been a GoFundMe set up for the ride. And I just wanted to thank everyone, not only the guys in the Discord in the 49 community, but everyone, all my friends and everyone else who's donated. So yeah, more on that later. So thank you to everyone. This is the only chance I'm going to get to thank everyone.
Well, that was Mick Claridge, unfortunately coming home with a finish that he didn't want today, back in 21st position, but always one of our favorites here on GSRC.
You got a little smoked out, unfortunately. So let's take a quick thank you to the Lotus 49 community and bringing us back for another season of coverage. But also thanks to the team today, Rob, Joey, and Dougie. Make sure to check out our social media, our website, and our merchandise store. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. The next race is going the complete opposite direction. We're at Long Beach, and that'll be Saturday, July 29th at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. But be sure to check out our other broadcasts listed here. As you heard from Aitor Sintez Galindo, the Camel Series will be up next today, also at an oval, but on the road course layout of Homestead Miami Speedway at 1 p.m. Eastern. However, until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.